Okay, so the newest Ace Attorney game is now finally out. It's been out for a little while, like a few weeks, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my thoughts on it, but I'm going to let you know I'm going to probably do this in a two-part video, where one is just general discussion, which is this one, and the next one is spoilers. From what we saw from the trailers, of course we find out that Phoenix Wright is now in a foreign land, apparently to visit Maya, because she's there trying to complete her channeling technique to where she can now become a master back home. So he's there for that reason, also to take in the sights. But of course, as we saw from both the demo and the trailer, he's thrust into the legal system and he finds out at the last minute why there are no defense lawyers there. Everything is completely handled by the prosecution and the priestess, who shows the last moments of the dead, and it's not even challenged. And therefore, they're just given an automatic sentence based on what they see and a one-sided argument. Now, we all know Phoenix's character, how he's very against injustice, and he sees that as unjust. So he jumps in, of course, not caring what anyone thinks of his actions, which I would probably do the same thing if I were him as well. That's pretty much the basis for every case that he's involved in this nation. But I'm going to focus on the first two episodes. And again, this is the non-spoiler section, so I'll talk about it in more detail in the spoiler video. Now, of course, in the first game, as I've said earlier, Phoenix dives spiky-headed hair first in and decides to defend his tour guide from a murder charge that is being completely one-sided. And we get to see how there is more to be examined, despite everyone not being used to being challenged. Especially the priestess, who was born after the time period when defense attorneys became first frowned upon. Now, to address an obvious elephant in the room, for those who have played the demo and seen the trailers, Phoenix is a minority in almost every single aspect in this new nation. Both his profession, his religious beliefs, and in first impressions of all townsfolk, everything you can name of. It's Phoenix against the entire nation, or the whole nation against Phoenix. I can kind of relate to that in a little bit. Now, in all the traits that make him a minority in this nation, I don't know if some of you can relate to any of them, but me, I can. I can identify with what he's going through and what he has to put up with. And it doesn't help that everybody prejudges him and openly insults his intelligence. I notice that the ones who tend to insult Phoenix's intelligence the most are the priestess and the prosecution. The judge, he is trying to be impartial, but he's all kind of by default on the prosecutor and priestess side, since he knows them personally and is of that nation. But at least I give him some credit for having the most open mind probably out of everyone on the nation. And it's good to have a judge that's like that. Being impartial is part of the job description, even in a nation that's completely governed by a single ideology. Now, with the setting out of the way, let's get to the first case. So the defendant is Phoenix's tour guide, being accused of killing a guard that's guarding the treasure. It's a national treasure. Phoenix finally gets to fight back against those who are insulting his intelligence, seeing him as just a lawyer. Even the defendant himself doesn't trust him simply based on his lawyer label. But once Phoenix finally gets the chance to counter-argue, I have to say it's a kind of a good feeling to reveal to them that everything that they hold dear in the legal system they have isn't so perfect. But then again, which legal system is? So there's a bit of a fun factor in making people eat their words. And I remember one of the people who reviewed this game did like this concept, but he felt that this setting of being a minority and challenging the whole nation's group, even though it's fictional, can be divisive. I can kind of see why, because I took this screenshot and it gives you a topic which is something that people can open a discussion about, be it controversial or whatnot. But I don't really need to talk about that because that's just the setting for the game, in which I already discussed. So I'm just going to continue on with the details of it. Now, of course, that's a whole topic for a whole nother video, which I probably won't even go into because all that is just about the setting, and it is divisive, but I already talked about the setting, so I don't really need to talk any more about it. So just like the previous games, Phoenix tries to prove his client innocent by trying to find the true culprit, be it a new witness or an undiscovered party. But like you see in the very beginning of the trial, you already know who the culprit is, and you just have to wait for him to appear and make him reveal himself. For the first case of the game, this does feel like it's longer than the other first cases of the previous ones. But I welcome that because it gives me more things to enjoy and engage in. And I'm sure a lot of you would agree too. Though this one was a little more difficult to finish, but again, I welcome that because I want something that's more challenging and not easy pickings. Now the second case takes us to familiar territory, back at Phoenix's office in his home country, and you're playing as Apollo, and Trucy is involved in a magic show. She's now bigger than she used to be. She's no longer playing in bars and clubs or wherever she was last time. And now she is on stage at an actual venue. And her career's taking off. They go to see it, as you can imagine from the previous trailers. And of course she gets involved in another case. And she's now the defendant, and Apollo now has to prove her innocent. And of course, I like to see more of Phoenix, Athena, and Trucy, everyone else, because we've seen only so much of them in previous games. It's good to see them once again, as the fans of those can enjoy their lives and what they go through. Now, as you can imagine, everyone involved in the magic show has a place in the trial as well. Not counting the audience, because they're told to evacuate after a murder is revealed on stage. Setting up the trial of Trucy Wright as the defendant. And this is not the typical case I would come to expect, because it being a magic show based, I expected a lot more gimmicks, and there were some. I won't say exactly what they were, I'll put that in the spoilers, but I will say it gives like a breath of fresh air, of fresh content to see in a new trial of a Phoenix Wright game. And I feel like I'm playing another trial of the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney game. But I just thought of an idea. Why not have an Athena Sykes standalone game? She hasn't had one yet. Apollo has, Phoenix has, Edgeworth has. Let's have one for Athena. Who's with me? Make it happen, Capcom! Overall, I like these cases. I have nothing but good things to say about them. And I'm going to go ahead and end this video review here, because in order to properly review it, I'm going to have to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't played the game or finished the cases yet, wait till you do so and then join me on the spoilers video that I'm going to be starting in just a little bit. Now, having said all that, this is Dan, and I so far have no objections to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice.